Welcome. So today we're going to introduce the Internship program, which started actually 3 years ago. We made a new architectural advisory board who have started what they call a student engagement committee, which Matthew and Jill are here representing. And Lori's mug up there as well. And then you will see a list of other advisory board members here. They've made themselves available for portfolio reviews, and they've given this talk once before. Anyway, when they started, they said, how can we help? And the first thing they did is they launched a computer scholarship for students who, some of your colleagues came in, or you came in with a computer that you got for graduation from high school that was lame the day that you came. And inevitably, this is the year that it breaks. And so the board has made a scholarship. So if something's going on with your computer and you're going to lose 2 weeks of school to get it fixed, go see Jim, because we just have started funding that. And then they're like, okay, how else can we help? And you might know that UVA has a very short internship program that they offer over the winter. And a lot of the employers around Virginia said, when we see those students' resumes, we immediately say, they've got some experience, even though it's so short. And they get kind of green-lined above some of us who don't necessarily start working until third year summer or fourth year or fifth year. And they're like, it would make us more competitive. And they also said, there's a lot of things that you wouldn't do in a whole summer that you could do in 2 weeks. And we're going to hear from Noah, who commuted an hour and 45 minutes into DC over these 2 weeks last year to intern at Perkins and Will. So sleeping on a relative's couch or something like that is an option for 2 weeks. He said, no, it was not an option for the summer. Although he was offered a summer position, he took something closer to home. So that's basically what the program is. I was like, 2 weeks, what can you possibly do in 2 weeks? And so 3 years ago, I piloted it in my tiny little office in Brooklyn, and I was humbled. We had 2 third-year students, AJ and Nathan, a third-year student from Columbia, and then a graduate student. And they did more in 2 weeks than I did in a whole year. Okay, I exaggerate slightly, but not much. The third years presented to a nonprofit gender equity board that had just just bought a property in Harlem that they wanted to convert to their headquarters. They did schematic design and presented to the whole board. The graduate student designed from scratch a 12-foot wide house, presented to the development team, including the real estate agent, the contractor, twice, and that project got built. So last year we did it again with 9 students, and you're going to hear from some of them and their bosses as well. We're doing this in collaboration with Career Services. They're kind of handling all of the logistics part. So the whole program runs through Handshake, and we're going to be joined by some people from Career Services, I believe, today to walk you through that process. And we're also joined by Lori and her team to walk you through the actual process of getting ready to apply. We figured this is a great time to start to think about also whether or not you're going to do the internship, career fair, how do you do a resume, that kind of thing. So they're going to give a little seminar on that is super fast. So I hope you brought like very quick writing and seatbelts, because when I heard it the first time, I was like, whoa. But we are recording this so you can slow it down and move slower. So let me see if the career service person is here yet. Yes, Janine, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Okay, Margarita, thanks for having me today. We're excited to have your architecture students enroll in our program for the wintermester. So basically, as Margarita was saying, it's a 2-week program. And how you're going to start the enrollment process is to log into your Handshake account, and then you're going into events. From events, you will find the CEIP information session. Sign up to attend one of those sessions. It's about probably 30 to 45 minutes long with an opportunity to ask questions. It's a basic overview of the program. It explains what the difference is between a co-op and an internship, and it also gives you next steps. So once you start interviewing with the firms and you accept an offer, if you've already attended the information session, you will have access to sign up for the orientation and enrollment meeting. At the enrollment and orientation meeting, I go over all of the steps that you need to complete to request enrollment in the program for the winter. There are some assignments that you're going to be completing through us after you're enrolled in a Canvas course. I think you need to enroll by mid-December in order to be enrolled for the winter session. We actually follow the academic calendar, so if you have any questions about when should I have this completed, you'll need to look at the academic calendar for last day to add for winter. So Margarita, do you want me to explain anything else? So really their next step is info session. Then they'll be given access to orientation and they can sign up for that as soon as they accept an offer.
Yeah, so I'm going to step back on my introduction and just talk to you a little bit about the process. So as I said, we're going through career services because they've done this a gajillion times. And they are the people that kind of manage the handshake system for the university. So in doing this, you're actually completing a course. It costs like $75, and there's some kind of paperwork that we're working on. But what you get in return is the support if something goes wrong. And who knows when you go out into the world with employers. And last year we had something where I called them up and I said, this is maybe I have a concern for the student. How do I kind of handle this? And since they have all this experience, they're kind of writing alongside us while we're doing this pilot. So step one after today is to sign up for Handshake and go and look for Internship. We have right now, we talked to the firms last Wednesday. We had 33 firms represented by 40 people from 9 different states. And so we're trying to get people all over the country, like our advisory board, to offer these positions. Right now, there's 11 positions posted. We're expecting that it'll hopefully get more, and we had to extend their deadline because it's a little short turnaround. Your deadline, I believe, and I'll check it out, is I think October 11th. And so you have over fall break, and your application, we're trying to make it super simple because, well, as simple as one can do. You're also doing third year stuff, which we know is a big lift. And then you're getting ready to think about fourth year options. And so there's going to be a lot of overlap between that and also any preparation you're doing for the career fair. So the package will be one very short page, not even a page, paragraph about why you want to do the winter internship and what you want to get out of it. So you're not writing like individual cover letters or anything like that to the firms. You're just generically writing, this is why I'd like to do the internship. And then the same 2-page portfolio that you'll be asked to submit if you want to do the Open Lab in Boston or the Chicago studio. And then a short resume. And that's where I'm going to hand it over to Lori to help you do that. The deadlines and then office hours, because this is going to be a lot of information, will be made available to you after today. Just to kind of, we'll make a little PDF to send to all the third year students. So Lori, I'm going to hand it over to you now, unless there's any questions already. Okay. Thanks, Janine.
All right, can everyone see my screen okay? Are we good to go?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for being here. We're super excited to talk to you today and talk about the winter internship program. I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce a few faces of people from the advisory board who are working both on planning the internship program and then also just generally involved in your life at Kogel. Myself, Alex, Jonathan, and Beth will be speaking today about our workshop topics. And then on the right, you can see the other members of our board. And of course, Dayton, Ian, Rick, please feel free to jump in whenever as we go through this presentation. So our agenda for this workshop, again, as Margaret had mentioned, we're going to go super fast, but of course we'll leave time at the end for questions. And then we also will offer some Zoom hours next week if you want to chat more. That could be great. So we'll take you through the statements of interest and then tips for your resume, your portfolio, and then interviewing with firms. And then we'll open it up to Rick and others who have participated in this program before and can kind of speak to some of the opportunities there. Our goal is to really guide you through this process and make it not like a large, scary endeavor, but really just show you like, here are the most essential things that you're trying to accomplish in each of these steps. So if we go into the statement of interest, so the first kind of part of your interface with a firm will be how you actually message them on Handshake or with an email. And so, people receive a ton of emails each day. And so our tips would be, in your email, or your handshake message, whichever it may be brief and be clear. So there's no need to write, a letter and a whole statement and an email signature. Introduce who you are, what you're applying for, and what year in school you are, where you're coming from at school, and then what documents you've included in either your application or in your email. Of course, make sure that you're addressing your email to the correct person and firm. Always double check that. And then avoid, repeating and copying all the details may be found in your statement of interest. So this can be short and sweet and just a quick primer. And consider, and this might not be for today, but consider, sharing your visa status if you're looking at a more full-time or different position. Here's an example of an effective email that just says, okay, dear team, my name is blank. I'm a recent graduate or I'm a third-year student here. I would like to work for your firm because X, and then I've included my cover letter, resume, and work sample. Here are the links to it. Thank you so much. And I hope to hear back from you soon. And then sign your name. In terms of statements of interest, so the goal of a statement of interest is to illustrate the things not captured in your resume or portfolio. It's to explain some qualitative skills, and it's also to really just show some energy and excitement. I think 90% of it is just showing up and saying, hey, here are the things that I've done. Here are the things that you do. I think we could be a great fit, and I would really like to work for you. And especially in this session, in this winter internship, it can be concise, as Margarita mentioned. It can be just a paragraph. So I'm going to take you through a longer one, but I think you could really just distill it to like 4 major sentences that each of these paragraphs kind of get at. So here's an effective one. So it starts with the introduction saying, this is who I am in school here. And then it goes into a quick kind of thing about me in that, I work on blank, I'm passionate about hand drafting, or I'm passionate about model making. It goes into, here are a few maybe examples of things I've done. I'm involved in Studio Collective. I spend a lot of my free time sketching and walking around cities. Like it's just something memorable in the first kind of sentence about, or second sentence about, here are some of my skills and interests. Then in the next one, get into skills, and sorry, this is where I'm getting at here, getting into skills that are not in your resume. And then in the next paragraph, get into some of those qualitative skills. So, I am currently learning Revit, or I'm proficient at hand drafting. I'm really interested in, history and theory, and I'm taking courses in this. I think it's just an example to just conversationally almost say, like, here are some of the things that make me excited about architecture. In the next paragraph, then you could talk about, one thing that the firm does that you're interested in. It's always really clear when you have not done the homework on the firm. So I would encourage you to spend, at least 30 minutes just perusing their website or their LinkedIn or even their Instagram gives a good snapshot of their, community and culture, and say, hey, I noticed that you have a new, mass timber building going up. I myself am really interested in this. I've actually worked on it in a studio project, and that's why I would love to join your firm and get the opportunity to work with you. And then in the last, paragraph, that's a chance to kind of stitch those two things together. And of course, in the end, always thank the person for their time, for reviewing your application. And so some just to, wrap this up, a few last, less effective things are when they're not firm specific, they repeat information. And also, when they are done with AI, I would really warn everyone not to use AI to write your cover letter or your statement of interest. It's very tempting to do so, but it's usually very clear when you actually have not done anything specific to that firm. The person reviewing this is taking time out of their day, and you want to take time out of your day to show that, hey, I've really, thought about you and I really want to be there and work for you. So of course, keep it as concise as you can, because I think you'll be more successful if it's just, 4 to 5 sentences. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alex, who will talk about resumes.
Great. Thanks, Lori. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, great. Great. So just some quick bullet points on what makes an effective resume. Really important. You want it to be really easy to read and clearly organized. You want to have a clear graphic hierarchy and graphic consistency, a clear summary. Typically, we'll do these in reverse chronological order, with your most current first. You're going to describe your relevant experience and tasks. At this stage, I think limiting your resume to 1 page is the way to go. Right, next. All right, so we're gonna look at a couple examples of what an effective resume would look like. Laura, if you go to the next slide. So this is really clearly organized. At the top, we have our contact information, how they can get in contact with us. We're showing our education. We have a section on experience in that reverse chronological order, and then a section at the bottom for some of the miscellaneous stuff. So you guys are third-year students. You're gonna maybe not have had as much work experience at an architecture firm or a design firm. I would say, any job or volunteer experience is really valuable. And I would list all of those there. I think it's really great for the employers to understand that, you have some management experience at like a retail store, or you did some volunteer work at your university. So make sure that you include those items. And then in your miscellaneous section, if you have like academic awards you've gotten or anything along those lines, make sure you include those. I think kind of building on what Lori was saying, this is a way for them to really get to know a little bit more about you. Next. So for your education, obviously you guys are, third-year students. So typically what you would do is say present, and then you would have your graduation date in the future, kind of, so your third year, it'll be 2025. So you say graduation 2025, and you would list your degree that you'll be receiving. For the experience, you want to be clear about who you worked for, do it in that reverse chronological order. And then talk a little bit about, what you did there. And especially for these jobs that might not be specifically design related, there's always a way to tie in to how that might help in the professional world. Something, or you're doing some volunteer work. Just talk a little bit about that and the kind of team building experiences that you had. Definitely, if you know any additional languages, that's always great to include in this section. So this, if you can go to the next slide, Laura, this is just another example of an effective resume. It's just organized differently. There's a bar on the left for current and a bar on the right for past. So I think here, the idea is just come up with a clear hierarchy that's easy to read. So some of the things that make a resume less effective, you don't want to over design it. You have your portfolio to really show off your design skills. You really want your resume just to be simple and clear. Don't include any complex graphics, charts, or icons. You want to make sure it's a PDF. Don't send like a Word file or another editable file. Don't be too vague about your experience. Just be very clear about it. And it's okay to have white space, especially at this stages in your where you are educationally. Don't worry about having some white space. Just make sure it's organized well. Next. So Just going to show a couple examples of like a less effective resume. So this looks super interesting when you first see it. You're like, wow, look at all these cool graphics. But once you start to get in there and try to understand what the person is, what information the person's trying to share with you, it actually gets pretty confusing. So try to stay away from these more complicated graphics. Next. This is the other end of the spectrum, which is like, it's not designed at all. So we are designers. We want to make sure it does have a clear hierarchy and design. This is a little bit too simple. All right, pass it to the next person.
All right, thank you. So let's talk about portfolio for a few minutes. Yeah, the portfolio is really, really important because it's expressing you and what you do, what you think about. And there's two big things, thinking about, does it express your passion? And is it clear? Is there clarity? So you have to somehow thread those two together. So if you have all this passion and it's like all over the place, and as Alex mentioned, it's over designed and you can't see anything, then it's just going to go out the door. So, can you bring those two together? We have a few examples here if we go through that. And, in terms of these 2 points, so here's an effective cover. It's super simple. It's clear. Here's my portfolio. Here's the 4 projects that I'm going to talk about. It doesn't need to be anything more than that. As soon as you start adding more lines and overlays and you do all these, oh, it's so cool, I'm going to get their attention, it just shuts anybody down who's looking at it. So it's really important. Graphic communication and clear ideas. If you can get clear ideas and graphic communication together, boom, someone's going to look at it and say, wow, this is really interesting. And they're going to talk about it and maybe you'll get hired. It'll be cool. Next slide. So someone thought, well, wouldn't it be cool to have put this really weird model in the front and I'll get their attention. But it'll get their attention, of course. But again, out it goes out. So be careful about that. You're professional. You're talking to professionals. You want to be clear ideas, clear communication. Next. So these some other points about that. Just you want to tell a story. What's your story? Your story is not how can I over design it, but how can I tell a cool story? It wants to be single clear document. As Alex mentioned, it's got to be something uneditable, of course. So you want to send a PDF that's boom, it's simple. It's not too gigantic either. You got to compress it down so someone can open it. It's not like 500 megabytes, but it's super simple. You want to clearly define the big idea of each project, and mixing media is really important because this is we do this in our firm where we'll look at all the projects in the firm, like 250 of them every year. And we're looking for, even internally, hey, are they building models? Do they have a sense of craft? Are they doing sketches? Or is it just a whole bunch of Enscape images or Rhino screen dumps? Probably not interesting. So mixing the media, telling a story through that, and understanding the difference between a portfolio and work samples. You're telling a story, you're threading them through what your passion is and how you can offer that to that firm. Next. So just a few examples, of some sort of clear, it's got a system. Here's number 1. Here's where I'm at. Here's the statement of purpose. Here's some drawings that clearly talk about it. There's a mix. There's some sketches. Here's my initial idea. Here's a model that I studied to get there. And boom, here's how the system comes together. So it's kind of all there in one simple page or spread, but it's not over designed. Here's the information. Here's my design. Here's what it's all about. And I think these are interesting too, getting, hey, I'm also thinking beyond just, hey, it's a library for so-and-so, and here's how it works. But actually, we're looking at materials, we're looking at how you build things, how we think about materiality in a different way. I'm expressing it, I'm exploring it. And this is very clear. This will get people's attention, this sort of clarity. Next. Yeah, and also interesting, the use of different media. So this is all hand-drawn pencils. Wow, that's probably going to get someone's attention because wow, it's not Enscape. Oh, it's not Rhino. It's not SketchUp. It's a hand drawing. You'll probably get someone's attention because it's also simple and beautifully organized. And something that's mysterious, but also there's a lot of white space, but just enough white space. It's like, oh, here's something. What's that? Interesting. There's all those sketches are really cool. And then you get, there's a physical model talking about light and how you're manipulating light. It's not too much, but it's just enough to be mysterious and also get someone's attention. Next. And then looking at John Cage Memorial, even the title alone, like, well, that's interesting. They have an interesting perspective on things. What would that be? What would a John Cage Memorial actually be? And they lay it out very simply and clearly. Mixed media, the beginning ideas with these study models, and then they move through to some drawings that delineate both three-dimensionally and two-dimensionally what the pavilion or the memorial is all about. Next. And then look, we'll analyze this. This one's, it's pretty good. It's borderline too much going on, but they just thread the needle between too much and not too much. So let's quickly go through this one. So here's a page. It's got, again, here's the information. This is what the project's about. This is what I'm trying to get at. Clear narrative. Write it. Again, don't use the AI. Just write it yourself from your heart. And here's where you're at. And then go to the next one. There's an image that gets you into it. I mean, emotions, you're selling yourself. So your image wants to pull them into the experience. Next. And then you get then some diagrams that show, hey, this is what I was thinking about. And this could be this, it could be that. And again, it's borderline. This one's like, there's a lot going on, but at least it's organized in a simple way. And then showing some craft. The craft is, the people really looking for craft. Can you craft something? Even if you're going to do simple things for 2 weeks, what can I do? I can work in the model shop. I can do this. I can do that. I have a sense of what can be made. Next. There's just one other one here, just showing it a sequence. Here's 4 projects. If you unfold the portfolio, they're all within a system, a graphic system. It's clear, it's concise. It's concise from page to page. So just looking at the way they've done the overall system conveys passion and clarity. Just consistent format. Next. Key information at the top. Next. And then some project description, simply written. And then, mixed media, a big image that's like, the hero shot. So something that's emotional that pulls you in, and then supporting diagrams and other things around it. Next. This is also important, which came up earlier. I think and Alex talked about it as well. But, what else can you do? Or are you interested in? If it's just the architectural studies, but these other things, the companies are looking for. Hey, are you interested in photography, sculpture, other sorts of things that are going to add depth to your ideas and add depth to what you might bring to that company? Next. And quickly ending up on less effective portfolio. We talked about this a bit, but bad resolution. It's fuzzy, or it's too gigantic, as I mentioned. Links to online portfolio. Hey, here's a link to my portfolio. No one wants to go online and scroll through some other system to get to it. It's not a PDF. Want to be clear. With different paper sizes for different pages, that drives people crazy. It's going to go out. Over designed, too busy. It's going to go out. Poor organization. It's going to go out. And then black backgrounds. That's like if someone prints it out, most likely no one's going to print out. But if they do, no one wants to print out a black background portfolio. It's going to drive everybody crazy. So think about that. When technical drawing sheets, unless it's for some reason shrunk onto that system you have, do not include technical drawing sheets. Next. Just a few examples. Like, wow, there's a lot going on. Oh, it's so cool. The black background, and there's this, and there's overlay white drawings and technical things, and this, and there's Russian text on the side. I don't know why, but it's really cool, and they're going to love it. And probably not. It's going to be too much and get discarded. Next. Just some other ones, just a lot of layers and overlays, and it's not going to help. Clarity, passion. Next. And this is the last one. So let's pass it on to interview. But that, again, overview. Think about it. Clarity, passion, it's clear graphic communication, craft, and ideas.
Okay, I think I'm up. So I'll be talking about the interview process and just thinking about how you show up. Kind of goes without saying, arrive on time, dress professionally. I think it's good to understand the culture of the firm and not overdress, but not underdress. So, again, when your research on who the firm is, you might take a look at any sort of studio photos they have and just kind of see what the culture looks and feels like there. Do your research on the firm. So I like to do the research initially when I'm writing the cover letter, designing my response to the job opening, but then also refresh my memory on who that firm is and maybe be able to bring up specific projects or just contribute to the conversation, being able to ask questions. That's kind of bullet point number 4. I think being very intentional, custom questions about who the firm is and what your role might be. Don't get like too esoteric with the questions, but also I think asking good questions is a really, really positive quality to have in an interview. Being genuine and be yourself, you know, I think people want to know who they're getting when they hire you. And so this is your opportunity to showcase you and your unique self and what you bring to the table and how you communicate. Sending a thank you message after the meeting, I think a lot of this is done via email nowadays. I still do handwritten letters if possible, but some offices aren't back, you know, in a physical space. So you kind of sometimes have to default to email, but I have even just recently in the last year for a job sent a handwritten thank you note, and I think it surprises people, even though it takes longer to get there. Or you could do both. And then just be patient. I think it can take a very long time for a firm to get through all of the portfolios and interviews that they're trying to conduct. So, you know, rarely does a turnaround in a couple of weeks happen. For virtual meetings specifically, same thing, arrive on time and be professional, maybe even try to arrive a couple minutes early so that you know have time to work through any glitches with technology. Be prepared to share any sort of documents, so asking in advance what they're hoping to see, having the files ready up, knowing how to share your screen in any particular platform that they're going to have you use. So you can use YouTube videos to see, you know, how do you share the screen in Zoom versus share the screen in Teams, etc. Making sure you have a good virtual background, that your audio is good, your lighting is good, and you're setting yourself up in a place that allows you to focus on the conversation without disruptions, and making sure you're doing it on a laptop or desktop rather than a phone, so that there's just a little bit more stability and good camera quality. And then this goes more, I think, back towards the just sort of a recap on the application. Make sure that you're following the instructions that are provided, trying to not break too many rules. Again, researching the firm, make sure that you're checking that the cover letter and all the materials are addressed to the correct place or person, including, you know, references that they might be able to check. Try not to blast multiple people at the firm or send multiple applications to different job openings that they may have, because it's all that just sort of becomes noise in the system. And then don't include a photo of yourself on your application. And then I think just to wrap everything up, you know, it takes, I think a lot of people have found that their network is what drives them to land a job. And so conducting these informational interviews, participating, staying active on LinkedIn, doing the part-time work is all part of building your network, which will lead to good opportunities and connections later on down the line. So I think that wraps our content sharing. And now we're ready for Q&A. Lori, I don't know if you have any final words you want to say.
No, I will say that, you know, you mentioned that this is all part of a, you know, something that you're designing. And I think this whole process is a design process. Like, think about how you put together both your statement and your resume and your portfolio and your correspondence as like one giant exercise. And this winter internship is kind of a perfect 2-week kind of prototype of that whole thing. So think about everything as a design decision, you know, how you choose to lay out your resume and whether or not you do bullets or numbers. or, whether or not you do full bleed or small, like I think that's all part of it, and all, not to say like that you have to overthink everything and be stressed, but everything has opportunity to just think about like, how am I communicating myself? And also to be a little bit reflective as well. As like, as you're putting together these materials, you can start to think about like, ooh, what things do I like doing, and what kind of threads do I have throughout my work that I can then talk about to firms with. And I think everyone will be really receptive to that when you've got kind of a clear kind of direction and path of things that you're interested in. I see that we're joined by Rick, who has hosted, I believe, last year students. So I think it might be awesome to hear from Rick. And then I think we're also joined by Noah and Bryn, who can also speak a little bit more about their experience last winter working at a firm. So I don't know who wants to go first, but maybe that's the next kind of best way to use our time.
I can go, and then Bryn was with us last year, so she can correct me if I mischaracterize her experience with us. But yeah, we participated last year. I'll say I'm a tech alumni. I was always a little jealous of UVA's program, and so I was really enthralled when this program got started, as was our firm. We participated in the UVA program, which is really similar for a number of years prior to this, but I think just to echo what Margarita started off by saying is, would highly encourage all of you to try and partake in this. It may not be the thing that you want to do with your 2 weeks, that you could just be kicking back and relaxing before spring semester starts. But, if I look at my own professional career, I've been practicing for a little over a decade now. I always thought the hardest job I've had to get was my first internship, because I think to that point about building your network, you don't really have one yet. And the more that you get experience, the more that you build your network, these experiences are really valuable. I know as someone who handles resumes and hiring that comes in through the firm, I look at an experience of 2 weeks like this as a real experience. So just a little plug, I think it's worth it. But, it's a really great program. I think I was on a call last week with interested firms, and there's a much higher interest this year as well, which is fantastic. These experiences, I think, are rewarding both ways. They're obviously rewarding for y'all, but they're rewarding for firms as well, where it's refreshing to have students in here. It brings some energy into the studio. We as a firm, and I think some of the other firms who participated, I don't want to speak for them too much, but we viewed this from a tad different than we might look at a summer internship. And that's probably good questions for you guys to ask when you're out interviewing. Obviously a summer internship is a couple months long. It really gives some time for true onboarding and training. There's not a whole lot of time within 2 weeks to do a lot of training necessarily. So we tried to structure the experience that we had with Bryn around things that we felt like a student could really come in, plug in right away, feel engaged in projects, feel engaged in meetings. We sort of structured it around one main project that she helped us with. And was in sort of Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, pretty heavy, but tried to supplement that with client meetings or job site visits or design presentations, any number of different things we had going on at the firm to give just a real sampling of what it's like to practice day to day. So every firm does it a little bit differently, but would just encourage you to, as you're out talking to firms, see how they might do the experience, what they think it's going to be like. Imagine many of them will be different, but they can all be very, very rewarding for you, no matter where you end up going.
That's a hard show to follow. Do you want to say?
Yeah, I can go ahead and talk. So I'm Bryn. I interned with Rick over the winter break, and then I also was given the opportunity to come back during the summer with them. So I did the winter internship because I didn't have any previous experience, but I was also really looking to kind of test out a size of a firm as well as the different types of work. And I also used it as an opportunity to live in a different city that I'm not from, Virginia. So I got to go live in Richmond, which I really enjoyed. But like Rick said, it was key values as real experience. So I got to work on real projects. He mentioned the one I got to work on, as well as like another that I got to do where I was able to go out to the site and did some massing studies that were used in client presentations. And everyone in the office knew that I was there for those 2 weeks. So they would pull me to the side and take me to like a site visit, client meetings, OAC meetings, and we would talk about it before or after if I had any questions. And even the people at those meetings who weren't from SMBW were really interested that I was there for 2 weeks. So they would ask me if I had questions as well. Trying to think. You also get AXP hours. That's the one thing, is I was able to use those to start getting my hours for just the future. So yeah.
Thanks, Bryn. How are things in Reva?
They're really good. I have to go eat dinner, but thank you.
All right, Noah.
Hello. Mine, I did not, or what was it? I was at Perkins and Will in DC, and that one, it was really awesome. Like, it really gave me a perspective on, like, not just like the firm itself, which it really, I think, set the stage for what type of firms I applied to that summer and where I was applying to firms, because a lot of the before that I didn't really know what type of firm I was looking for or where I was looking for, but I went into DC and I realized I couldn't commute into DC. That was just not really an option for me. As well as I also learned just within firm sizes and things like that, that like just how it all works. I learned that whole that internship of 2 weeks. I learned so much about how projects are built in the real world in such a short amount of time. It is totally invaluable, and it's like a must do for students. And for the firm, I think it's still very helpful because it is essentially it's a long interview. And the best way to get a job is for them to know who you are and how you work. And yeah, and though I did also get an offer from Perkins and Will in DC, I did not take it just due to I can't afford housing there, and I can't commute there. So yeah, that's it.
All right, thanks a lot, Noah. And Noah's up in Boston, right? At Payette, sitting next to Lori.
Yep.
Shows you why you should not do Zoom on your phone. All right, Andrew's gonna put the schedule up. Any questions? We have a few more minutes. I know everybody wants to get lunch before lab, but any questions we can answer?
Margarita, can I share a couple of other things?
Perfect.
Career and professional development has professional dress and business casual for free that students can come to our office. They can sign up for an appointment. We release appointment blocks for career outfitters every Friday. And so they're welcome to schedule an appointment to come in to be measured. And then they can pick out a suit or professional clothing or business casual clothing for free. We also have several interview rooms upstairs. I think it's like 27, and they're all equipped for virtual interviewing. So if students did have an interview and they needed a quiet space with good technology, they can contact our employer relations staff and schedule a room for their interview if they're doing virtual interviewing.
That'll save you doing it on your phone and having to worry about your background. Okay, so I don't think Andrew's downstairs. I don't think he got the schedule. We'll make sure to send the schedule out to everybody. Everybody's going to have a few people on the call. So Alexandra from Fox and Fowl, Lori, Janine, and Bryn are going to have office hours next week. So when you're working through the application, if you just want to spend a few minutes talking to Bryn about the experience, or maybe some questions like how she did her interviewing and what was successful and how much time it took her, or talk to Janine about just how to go through the process, or talk to Alexandra and Lori, have them look at your portfolio. They've very generously offered to do that. And so we'll post their Zoom times and hours. Otherwise, have a great Wednesday, and thanks for coming. And thanks, everybody.